Are you ready for the kraut of your dreams? Today's the day. We're making sauerkraut. I'm about to show you the best sauerkraut recipe I know. Great sauerkraut is about a few different things. It's about the right amount of salt, the right mixture of veggies to make things nicely balanced. But most importantly, it's about texture. We make a lot of sauerkraut in this house, and we've experimented with lots of different kinds of textures, from like rough chopped to, finely chopped to grated to pulverized in a juicer and then extract the fibers and use that and the juice and mix it all together, which by the way is amazing. We've even done sauerkraut in the Vitamix, which it took us a long time to eat that batch because it was just too smooth, But I've arrived at what has become our favorite sauerkraut here, and I'm going to show you how to make it right now. For this sauerkraut, we're using a regular green cabbage, we're using regular old carrots, regular old ginger, and regular old salt. Well, this is Himalayan salt, but you can use whatever salt you want. I'm going to start by grating the veggies. So I have this amazing big kind of pan dish thing. I guess it's a pan, right? It's called a tava. It's a Bulgarian pan that I'm very happy to have in my possession. And it's amazing for sauerkraut because you can kind of do everything in here, and it's so wide that it just catches everything and you can mix it right in. If you have a grater attachment on your food processor, that would be a really good thing to use for this. I unfortunately just have a box grater, so we're doing it the old-fashioned way, but we'll probably speed it up so that you don't have to watch this whole process. Depending on the size of your cabbage, it might be easier to cut it in half or even in quarters before you start grating. Can we get a food processor blade attachment? I kind of want to look for one right away. Oh, there is such thing as a cabbage slicer thing for sauerkraut. It's like a wooden board, kind of like a mandolin, but for cabbage. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on one of those. I forgot to mention, before you grate the whole cabbage, take a few of the outer leaves off and just leave them whole, because we're going to use those at the end to cover it up. The texture we're looking for is like that. Okay, next goes the carrots. I didn't bother peeling the carrots, but I just washed them. For some reason, this has never felt as tedious when I'm just doing this on my own without a camera watching me. I usually just disappear into my thoughts, When you have tiny carrots from your garden, this is even more reason to get a food processor grater blade. Okay, finally the ginger. And I actually just do it on the same blade as the other two, just make it real coarse. So by now you should be adequately covered in cabbage, and you should have a decent cabbagey mess surrounding your workstation. Totally part of the program. In terms of amounts of everything, I kind of have a very rough ratio going on, and maybe we'll put the numbers up in the thing here because it's kind of funny. So my cabbage was 1,450 grams. So I used 450 grams of carrots, so like the last three numbers, and then 145 grams of ginger. So it's like 1,450, 450, 145. Kind of cute, right? All of the veggies came to about 2 kilos, so I'm thinking 40-ish grams of salt will be about right. I might start with 30 and taste it. Because you need salt for it to be safe, but I do find sometimes it's a bit too much when you add the amount that they say. And then it's just time to get in there and squeeze it. And this process takes a little while. I don't usually stand here and mix the entire time. I usually just give it a good mix and then walk away for a bit and then come back, and some of the juice starts to come out because the salt works on it. So you can already see the salt's working. But whether you stand here and squash it or you walk away and let it do its thing, it'll just do its thing no matter what. It's kind of like kneading dough. It's not totally necessary to stand there and knead the dough the whole time because the yeast is going to do the work on the gluten anyway. Did you know that? So give it a few good squashes and then walk away for a few minutes. And I love this mixture because I love the zingy ginger and I love the color that you get from adding carrot. And then carrot adds such a nice sweetness too. So that's taken about 2 minutes. Wow. Look at all that juice. That's juicy. So it is really important that you use fresh stuff. So a fresh cabbage just has a lot more water in it than a dry cabbage. Same with carrots. So I'm gonna walk away for a minute and let it do its thing. This has been sitting for about 5 minutes. It's starting to get really juicy. One thing though that I have become a firm believer in is that it's kind of always good to add a little bit of water. Like you get a lot of juice out and it's really impressive and it's great, but you really want your cabbage to be submerged in liquid. And also the juice is some of the best part of kraut. So it's really nice to have lots of juice. So I do like to add some water and I'll adjust the salt levels based on that. So I'm gonna add quite a bit. I'm gonna say that's about a cup. Oh yeah, I think that's salty enough. Yeah, so that's salty enough. I don't want any more salt. So that was about 1.5% of the volume of the veggies. Babe, do you want to taste it? Just to confirm. No?
Doesn't need more salt. No.
Doesn't at all. Confirmed. Doesn't need more salt. So 1.5. Maybe that's just the magic number for us. Okay. All that's left is to get it packed into some jars, and it is very important that everything you're doing when you're making sauerkraut is very clean. So very clean hands, very clean jars, and clean utensils. Clean, clean, clean. Now I'm just going to pack it in by the handful. And I'm not going to fill it to the top because as it ferments, it kind of like lifts up. Air pockets kind of form in between the layers of cabbage and it really puffs up. So I'm gonna say about that full. And I need another jar. And then I'm just going to really pack it with just my hand. You can use a utensil if you have. I don't know, this is the best. I think the best way is to just shove it in there with your hands. And you can see that the liquid is coming up over the cabbage really easily. That's what we want. Once it's all packed down, you can just take one of these cabbage leaves that you put aside earlier and kind of rip it or cut it in about the shape of the, you know, the jar, and just shove it in there. And I do like to wipe the kind of bits of cabbage from around, because any of the cabbage bits that are exposed, that are not in the brine, have a good chance of going bad. I see a lot of people putting a tea towel over their kraut or even just covering it loosely. We actually find that covering it tightly does the best job. Once they're all jarred up, I like it to sit in a cool, dark place for about 2 weeks, and you'll start to see bubbles forming, and you can kind of like shimmy them around and you'll see bubbles floating to the top. And like I said, the cabbage will start to kind of lift up. But because we didn't fill it too high, we shouldn't have any leaks. But if you're wanting to be sure, you can put them in like a tub or something, so just in case they spill over. But these look good. All right, now we're gonna put them away for 2 weeks. This is our finished sauerkraut after it's been fermenting for about 2 weeks, and it's been in the fridge for a few days now. And it's juicy and it's sour and the texture is so good. And I really like just eating it with a spoon or a fork as a snack. Oh my God, this is such a good batch. Wasn't it?
3 weeks.
This was a 3-weeker. Okay, I just got word that this was a 3-week batch and it was really a good call because this is delish. So you might be thinking, that's great and all, but what am I gonna do with all this sauerkraut now that I have it? Number one best way is to just eat it with a fork because I just think that's really great. It's like a perfect after work snack, whatever, in between tasks. You can just grab a few spoonfuls and have a little snack. If you want to add a little protein and crunch, sprinkling some nuts or seeds on it, walnuts or peanuts, so good. Another thing I love to do is just have it on the side of whatever I'm having for dinner. It's especially good with like mashed potatoes and sausages, big pile of kraut. I love putting it in sandwiches, like, you know, a Reuben or like a sauerkraut grilled cheese, something like that. I thought today I might show you a little snack that I'm in the mood for, which is a sauerkraut quesadilla. What do you think? I've got a little tortilla here, a little flour tortilla, and I've got some Gruyere cheese, and I just washed my grater so I can use it again. Just gonna grate a little of this. I chose Gruyere because I love how melty it is. And I love cheddar, and cheddar is really good with fermented things like sauerkraut and things like kimchi, but it's too crumbly. Aged cheddar is just too crumbly. So I'm going with Gruyere here. Spread that out, and then I'm just gonna put a bunch of kraut on one side. And because I'm in the mood for something a little spicy, I think I'll just put a few Korean chili flakes in here too. This is the gochugaru. I love this stuff so much. Just a pinch. Smoked paprika would be really good here too. Just really wakes everything up. And then let's toast it in a little cast iron. Looks great. Okay, so we've got a kraut quesadilla now. Pretty excited to eat it. You could dip this in any of the yogurt dips we talked about several episodes ago. You could even dip it in the kraut yogurt dip if you wanted to be crazy. Drippy and juicy and crispy. Oh yeah. Can I just have one more bite and then I'll wrap things up? If we were still allowed to go out and party, this would be the thing I would come home and make in the middle of the night. Maybe one day it'll happen again. I hope that episode was a good one. I hope you have a grater for your food processor because I don't really wish the hand grating nonsense on anyone. I will put the exact measurements that I used down in the description box below. And go forth and make kraut. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do make it, you should definitely also make this quesadilla because it's great. Thanks for tuning in to the kraut sessions. We'll see you next week. Right?
That was the best one.
Oh, should I do it again?
No, because it's leaked all over.
Okay. Good.